Uh,
Over to you,
so
Percy.
thank you so much. Thank you. So I'd first of all like to thank one and all for joining us today. And today's webinar, I'm going to promise I'm going to try and keep it as short and sweet as possible. And at the same time, I'm going to make sure it's as informative as well. A quick introduction. Sumit already introduced me. My name is Percy Bengali, and I work as a senior consultant with Abara LMS. My specialty lies in problem solving, matching clients' needs with Abara's features, marketing, and creating the content that helps spread the news about Abara as a powerful learning management platform. Of lately, I'm also involved with making prospective LMS users and people who rely on traditional training understand the importance of the LMS in the oncoming periods. Quick intro about our organization. At Abara LMS, we have a very rich heritage and strong belief in promoting training and development as the key or sometimes as a unique solution to a corporate problems. Abara LMS is a learning management system designed and built to train a corporate workforce in a way that training and development activities become an organization-wide activity. This rich heritage and culture comes from Abara's parent company, which is Enyota Learning, and we've been catering exclusively to this international market for over 12 plus years now. And our specialty lies in custom e-learning courses, learning technology solutions, and more. Abara LMS is also an award-winning system. It's been recognized by multiple third-party experts that we have absolutely no ties with, which just proves once again that Abara is a system unlike any other. So let's quickly dive into the topic for today, and that is what comprises your LMS's costing. If I could just request one and all to have their attention on the screen right now. All right, let's get this webinar started. I'd request one and all to uh, please pay attention because it might get a little confusing from here. So first and foremost, why are we hosting this webinar? The thing is, as an LMS provider, we have often come across clients asking us, why does an LMS cost as much as it does? So we thought this webinar is a good way to break down the costs of what it takes to license an LMS. However, keep in mind that not all LMS are priced the same. Some are rather complicated, and it is a way to smartly increase the price of an LMS. Rest assured, I have tried and simplified it for everybody attending today's webinar. And in most cases, an LMS should not cost or be priced in any other way. The only exception being you're looking at a really advanced LMS with supremely advanced features that allow additional training capabilities. But in all honesty, most organizations do not need such complicated LMSs. However, there is one other reason which trumps all other. People should know about what an LMS comprises of, how the costing is implemented, and finally how everything comes together, resulting in the prices that a vendor offers. Now you may wonder why. The answer to this is simple. It is to justify your return on investment. Also, as a good practice, it is good to know what an LMS costing usually comprises of. This way, when you're present in the market looking for an LMS platform, you can ask your vendor to provide you with the costing breakdown of the LMS and then verify if you're unknowingly paying for something extra, which happens quite often when you come to the LMS market. Or maybe sometimes you might not even be sure about a feature that you need probably, and you end up paying extra. So again, this webinar is going to try and help uh, declassify all of these problems that people usually face when licensing an LMS. So let us quickly look at the four components that make up the pricing of an LMS. First, we have setup and implementation costs. Then you've got the licensing fee, which breaks down into two types. You've got active users and registered users. Then you've got something called as hosting fee. And finally, you've got additional costs, which comprise of your support fee, maintenance fee, customization fee, and integration. So let us just say that the pricing of most LMS can be broken down into four distinct parts. Now, why are these four distinct parts important? The aim of this webinar is to simply break down these four parts and explain to you what their actual use is when it comes to an LMS. We're trying to understand how these four elements affect the practicality of your LMS. What are the needs for these four elements to be a part of your LMS? You're going to try and understand how these four elements affect your functionality, your usage, and your security. All right. So before moving forward, let's quickly launch a poll, and you should be seeing the options on your screen right now. If you all could just quickly help me out with your answers here, it'll help me better understand what your needs are for today, and that ways I can try and cater to your questions in a more customized manner. All right. So from what I can see, most people are looking for an LMS with which is modern. It has an average licensing fee, and some are looking for low, which is exactly how an LMS should be. And let me tell you all, in this case, this webinar is going to be perfect for you because you have got the point bang on that this is how an LMS should actually be. All right, let us start with the first cost that comprises of all LMSs. All right, and that is called as your setup cost. Now, setup costs are a one-time cost charged by the vendor when setting up your LMS. Because when you receive a new LMS, there are a checklist of do's and don'ts that need to be taken care of before your LMS can actually start functioning smoothly. Just like you would actually install a new software, you need to actually follow certain steps to get your LMS going. But as you may have guessed, it requires a certain amount of technical knowledge to execute. Also, your LMS actually comes as a blank canvas. So an initial setup is very important. What happens when you get an initial setup done by the vendor? When you allow your vendor to do an initial setup, the moment an LMS is delivered to you, your LMS administrator can simply just dive into the training without spending too much time on the technicalities of setting up the LMS, which is why setup is always involved as a part of the cost, and it is something that you should look forward to when you're purchasing your new vendor. So, what can you expect? What can you expect as a part of these setup costs? When you're talking about setup costs, you're talking about setting up your instance. An instance is a certain amount of virtual space that is allotted to you where your LMS resides for people to access globally on the internet. It is to create your portal. So what you see on screen over here right now, these two beautiful women, these uh, this is actually a demo login portal that we have created. So this is created by the vendor for you so that your administrator doesn't have to pay too much of an attention in trying to figure out how to run this. All right. Then we've got branding. Now, branding is basically the placement of your logo and taglines through all sections of the LMS. Then you've got something called as the SSL certificate installation. This certificate ensures that your LMS is secure, especially if you're using the LMS to sell courses. Then you got mapping the IP address. Now your LMS starts off as an IP address, which eventually gets remapped to a domain name of your choice. So this is also taken care of by the vendor, which is why it comes under setup costs. Then you got theming. Theming is the overall color schemes that you choose, the fonts, the tiles, the buttons to make your LMS more attractive to your learners. And then you got white labeling. Now, white labeling is the process where the vendor removes all branding and logo of themselves and instead replaces it with branding and logo of your organization, which makes it seem like your LMS is actually custom built for you. So your learners actually think that this is something that has specially been taken care of for them. Also, setup costs involve something called as other allied technicalities, which we shall get to in a bit. So, along with these setup costs, all right, there's also something called as dedicated training costs. All right, it comes under setup costs. Now, what is dedicated training costs? Uh, First of all, dedicated training cost is a cost that is borne by you, paid to the vendor to train your administrator to understand and operate the administrator side of the LMS. So that ways, when the LMS is given to your administrator, he knows exactly what to do. Then you've got training that the vendor provides to your learners. That ways, your learners can simply jump into the LMS and focus more on the training aspect. Then you've got training for your line managers. Now, line managers are your middle managers who have their own subset teams. The LMS can actually be handed over to them where they train their own team members. So if you've got 5 teams and 5 line managers, those 5 line managers can train their subset teams, and this training is provided to your line managers by the vendor. And finally, instructors. Many organizations have instructors, in-house L&D professionals. So there's a separate feature for them in terms of how to operate the instructor operations, which again is a training that is provided by the vendor to you all. So one thing to note over here is that as an organization, we at Abara charge a one-time setup cost. However, as you see in the next slide, our one-time costs are actually quite nominal compared to others. All right. So uh, the charges for one-time setup cost when you go in the market, it can range from anywhere between 2,000 US dollars to 10,000 US dollars. And again, what are you getting charged for? You're getting charged for a setting up, you're getting charged for implementation, configuration, and the training workshops. We have already covered these points. Now, at Abara, we charge the nominal amount for setting up, which is just $2,000. And why is our amount so nominal? It's just for one reason. Companies that charge 10,000 US dollars and close to that figure, you will realize that many of them actually do charges are actually companies that have very complicated LMS, which require you to avail their services to help with the setup of users, configuration roles, permission, department roles, locations, data, etc. So basically, even after the initial training is provided, you have to reach out to them once again for multiple rounds of setting up and such, which is why their setup costs are always expensive. Actually, an LMS doesn't need to be that complicated, but you'll find a lot of vendors making their LMS so complicated that you just have to keep reaching out to them for setup, and so they justify their costs and the figure of 10,000 US dollars. However, when it comes to our LMS Abara, it was specifically designed with an award-winning UI and UX, which makes training your admin and learners a very easy task. On using Abara, you yourself will realize that multiple rounds of training are certainly not needed. Hence, we don't charge an exorbitant amount for setting up. You all can easily access our free trial after this, and I would highly recommend you all to do so in order to understand firsthand how simplistically powerful Abara LMS is. All right. So the first cost that goes into your LMS is the setup cost. Some vendors are going to charge you an exorbitant amount because their LMS is simply too complicated for no reason, whereas you'll find some vendors charging you a very affordable amount because their LMS is simple to operate yet powerful and gets all your training needs done. Coming down to the next point or the next factor that makes up your pricing, that is active users pricing. Now, what are active users? Now, you all will have to pay a little attention here because this could get a little confusing. Active users are the number of people that will access the LMS during a given month. Let us take an example to make this simpler. For example, if my organization has 500 people and I am sure that during any given month, only 100 people will train on the LMS, it makes no sense for me to purchase a license for all 500 people. In this case, I can actually register all 500 people's account on the back end of my LMS, but I will purchase a plan where only 100 of those people can access the LMS in any given month for their training needs. These 100 people can be anybody from the list of 500 people, but once again, only 100 can access the LMS in a month. So basically, I have 500 people, but I'm sure that only 100 people are going to use my LMS. Why should I pay extra for all 500? Rather, I register all 500 on the back end, but make sure that only 100 out of them can access my LMS in a given month, and those could be anybody in a month. So any 100 learners can access my LMS in a month, and that is called as your active users plan. And the first part of almost all LMS's pricing is made up of the costs associated with these individual accounts, and they are called as active users plans. So how is pricing determined based on active users? This and always should be very simple. Every individual user's accounts or an active account has a certain cost associated with it. The price for this can vary from anywhere between $2.92 per user per month to $10 per user per month. So basically, based on the vendor's pricing policy, you either pay $2.92 or you pay $10 for each user. And what are the factors that justify this price? The factors that justify this price are the storage space given to each individual learner where their progress is recorded. So each individual learner has a certain storage space allocated to them. LMS also creates special reports for them. Administrators can send out push notifications. You can send out individual learning paths and the ability to host these learners on video conference and a whole lot more. So these below mentioned things over here are what justify the cost for per users. And when you actually look at them, you'll realize that all of these demand a certain amount of resource and bandwidth from the system, which is where that costing comes in. And why do the costs of individual learners vary from $2 to $10 based on the vendor? Again, it is very simple. Now, some LMS providers will provide you an LMS platform with extra or additional features, and so they say that our costing for a user is $10 just because they have given you additional features. However, you will realize that not all of these features are something your organization really needs. You will actually be surprised when comparing the features that had originally excited you versus the features you really use. So I have seen this over and over again. People come to me saying that I'm paying $10 per user and that's quite exorbitant. But then when I really analyze their LMS, I realize that they don't really use all the features they're paying for. They could have actually gone for an LMS that just cost them $2 per user per month and it does everything that they needed. But rather, because of the bells and whistles and attractive features, they went for an LMS that is over the top with all these added features and they're now paying $10 but hardly using two features. Now, that is something that you should strictly avoid when looking for an LMS. Trust me, an LMS is simply there to train, track, and manage and formalize your training activities and nothing else. So you do not really need all those bells and whistles that most other vendors offer you for exorbitant prices. So if let's go back to the example here. So if my organization has 500 people and I'm sure that during any given month only 100 people will train on the LMS, like I told you, I will register all 500 people, but I will buy a plan for only 100 people to use the LMS in a given month. This way, vendors offer you plans where you can select the number of users you think will use an LMS in a month. So if you think only 100 people are going to use the LMS in a given month, you can go for an active users plan that allows you to train only 100 people in the month. If you think 250 people are going to use your LMS a month, you can go for an active user plan where 250 people can train. Same thing for 500, same thing for 1000. So you need to be aware about how many people do you think will access your LMS in a month. That is how you differentiate your active users plan. So how is the final active users price calculated? Again, I'd require you all to just pay attention to the screen. So now that I have decided that my organization has 100 people out of my 500 people who are going to use the LMS, I'm going to go on to purchase a plan for 100 active users. Now remember how I said that you are charged on a per user license basis from anywhere in between $2.92 to $10 per user per month based on the vendor and the platform. Let us just say that the vendor I am looking at charges $2 per user per month. In that case, if I choose a 100 users active plan, I pay 3,504 for 100 active users for the whole year. It is as simple as that. If you look at 100 active users per month, I just paid $292 for 100 active users per month. Why is this? Because each user costs me just $2.92. So you can do the math over here. If I go for a higher active user plan, that is 250 active users, it becomes $730 per month, and the same thing becomes $8,760 for the whole year. It should be actually as simple as that. So that is how the final active users plan is calculated. You go for a vendor who offers you a nominal active user plan amount. You select the slab that you want. Are you sure 100 people are going to use it? Are you sure if there's 250, 500? You select the number of users, and then you pay them according to a monthly or a yearly basis. It's as simple as that. Now, what happens if you decided to add maybe 5 more extra learners? Now, I selected a plan for 100 users, and all of a sudden I think that I'd want to add 5 more learners. It's really simple. There is an amount associated with additional numbers over the original plan. So if your original plan costed you $2 per user, for additional users you might get charged $2.5 per user. That way you can add 5 or 10 more learners, but the only thing is you'll be paying $2.5 for them. It is as simple as that. So that is how you can estimate it. Now, really important question: how do you decide an active users plan? Frankly, there is no set way of saying or determining this, but as a rule of thumb, we recommend you to follow these guidelines. One, identify the people who really impact the KPI of your business. That is, do they directly impact the profitability? Are they in charge of sales? Are they client facing? Do they handle manufacturing? If yes, then it is important to understand how many of those members do you have, and based on that, you can select your plan, or just try and select a plan that is closest to the number of people you want to get trained. It is always best to get a plan with the most number of active users, but still, when selecting an active users plan, be very sure and careful about how you go around doing this. Now, with this, we come to the next type of pricing, and that is a registered users plan. What we just spoke about was active user pricing, but there is another common type of pricing, and that is called as registered user pricing. Remember how I said that if I had 500 employees in an organization, I could register all 500 of them, but pay for only 100 people who can use the LMS out of those. In this plan, I can't do that. In this plan, if I have 500 employees, I must pay for all 500 employees. That is called as your registered users plan. So remember, you got the active users plan, where out of 500 I can select a plan for 100, and then you got the registered users plan, where if I have 500 people, I pay for all 500 of them. So who needs a registered users plan? Generally, registered users plans are also charged on per user basis, just like active users. However, the price per user under this plan is less. So remember how the price per user in the active user plan was just $2. The price for registered users could be slightly lower. It could be 1.5, 1.92, somewhere around that range. But you need to realize that that doesn't mean this plan costs less. The thing is, these plans are generally offered to large corporations who may have users that run into the thousands, and especially for organizations who cannot really put a cap on the number of learners that access the LMS in a month. So, for example, if I have a total employee size of say 10,000 people, and I really cannot compromise my training by limiting the number of people who access the LMS, I have to select a registered users plan. I would simply select the plan where all 10,000 of my people are registered on the back end. They can train whenever they want, but I have to make sure that I pay for all 10,000 of them. All right. Again, in this case, what happens with the extra users under registered user plan? You got two options. One, you can either replace new learners with old learners who are inactive or have interacted very little with the LMS, The second is you can pay extra for additional number of learners to upgrade your plan. So these are the two types of plans that you can go for. Active number of users, where if I have 500 people and I'm sure that only 100 people are needed to be trained, I select the plan like that. And then you got the second plan that I just explained to you, which is registered users, where if I have 500 people, I pay for all 500 of them. The first plan is good for small organizations where they're not sure about how many people might train in a given month. And the second option is good for large organizations where you cannot really decide how many people should get trained in a month, and the only option is that you have to train every single one. So guys, before we move forward, I just wanted to throw up another poll which will help me understand a little better about your disposition with the next half of this webinar. So the poll should be coming up on your screen right now. If you all could just help me out with the answers over here, I can customize the next half of the webinar for you all. So I just require you all to pay attention to the screen right now. All right. So from what I have gathered, I can see that there's a mixed audience here. Some people are looking to switch their old platforms. Some people are looking to purchase new ones, which makes sense. Now, why is this important? Because the next half that we're going to talk about now is hosting and its type. So if you are looking to purchase an LMS, new one, or are looking to switch an LMS, you need to be aware about what hosting is. Now, what we saw earlier was part one and part two of the four parts that constitute your LMS's pricing. With that, we now come to the third part that constitutes the LMS of the pricing of LMS, and that is the hosting plan that you select. So, what is hosting? Hosting is a process where a software or a code resides on a physical third-party server. Basically, most LMS run on such virtual servers, which helps them in becoming a SaaS product. So your organization's LMS, or the one that you might go on to purchase, or even your organization's website, currently is being hosted on a third-party server or a cloud. Obviously, these servers are not just any random servers. They are trusted and highly secure and are built specifically for the purpose of allowing large multinationals the freedom to run their platform over the internet. This hosting gives your learners the power to access the LMS from anywhere in the world, since it's hosted over the internet. Hosting is the ability to host your LMS on the cloud so that people can access it from anywhere in the world. So you don't have to worry about them being in your company or in your country. They can be anywhere in the world. They can access it. So why is cloud hosting better? Now, cloud hosting is better for three important reasons. One, it does not take up your organization's valuable storage and computing power. Two, it is less of a hassle for your IT teams to maintain. And three, if there is a breakdown or some kind of malfunctioning on the LMS, you don't have to wait for the vendor to send someone over to your organization. This can be handled remotely. The vendor can just fix your issues over the internet. With that, we come to the two main types of hosting, and this is really important to note because the first hosting, that is shared hosting, is absolutely free, and the second hosting, that is dedicated hosting, is charged. So let's understand why shared hosting is free and dedicated hosting is charged. Shared hosting is a process where multiple organizations and their LMS are all hosted on the same server, as long as their LMS have the same technical specifications. And what are the specifications? One, the LMS should be stock. That means it should not have multiple customizations and integrations. It should have less than 1,000 users, and it should be a small semi-sized business. So if your LMS is stock, it has less than 1,000 active users, or it is small or semi-sized, you can be hosted alongside other such organizations on a shared hosting plan. That ways you actually don't have to pay any amount for the shared hosting. So one thing to remember over here is that most vendors will not reveal this to you. They won't tell you that shared hosting is actually free. If you're going for an LMS that is simple, and if you're going for an LMS that doesn't have multiple customizations, you can easily be hosted alongside other organizations on a secure server, and it is absolutely free. But vendors will not tell you this. We, however, on the other case, are very clear with the fact that if your LMS is simple and it has less than 1,000 active learners, we can host you alongside other LMSs and we will not charge you for it. It will be absolutely free. So one thing to remember over here is that who does it really suit? All right. Uh, you need to be aware about that vendors charge you for shared hosting. We do not charge you for it. All right. That is one of the biggest advantages of running with someone like us. We are very open about our pricing. All right. Uh, one thing to remember over here is that as an organization, we want small businesses to actually embrace the concept of learning and development, which is why if you are going with something like shared hosting, we make sure that it is not charged. So let us take a quick look at whom it is suitable for. It's suitable for small and semi-sized businesses. It's suitable for businesses with less than 1,000 learners. It is suitable for businesses that do not have many customizations, mainly third-party integrations, and it's good for organizations with limited training budgets. One thing to remember again over here is that does shared hosting mean risky? Not at all. Especially when you're associated with a web giant like Amazon, which Abara is. So our web hosting provider is Amazon, which is AWS, and they are known for one of the best service providers in terms of hosting, which is why our hosting is secure. So even if you're under a shared hosting plan, it doesn't mean you're unsafe in any way. Coming to that, the next part is dedicated hosting. All right. So what is dedicated hosting? Like I told you, the first part, shared hosting, is charged, is free. Dedicated hosting, on the other hand, is charged. So what is dedicated hosting? In short, you do not share an instance with any other organization. Basically, a certain part of the cloud storage is dedicatedly allotted to your organization and its LMS. And your LMS is solely operating on this instance alone. However, the LMS is still being hosted on the Amazon web server, albeit independently. Now, why is dedicated hosting needed? All right. In short, dedicated instances are best suited for large organizations with more than 1,000 learners, for organizations with multiple third-party integrations, and for organizations preparing for heavy LMS usage at any given time. So if your organization falls under any of the above mentioned categories, it is best suited to go with a dedicated instance, because dedicated instances can take the load of large number of learners accessing the LMS at once. They can handle the load of multiple customizations and integrations, and they are dedicatedly yours. So how does dedicated hosting add to the cost of your LMS? Since a dedicated hosting plan is an exclusive instance for your organization, there is obviously a cost associated with it. Again, let us quickly take a refresher. Shared hosting is free, dedicated hosting is charged. All right. So any plan that involves up to 500 learners would cost 1,500 to be dedicatedly hosted, and any plan which involves 500 to 1,000 learners would cost $1,800 to be dedicatedly hosted. This cost is something that is directly payable to the web service provider, which in our case is Amazon Web Services. So one thing to remember over here is that when it comes to dedicated hosting, you aren't paying to us. We are actually forwarding that money to Amazon because they are the ones providing the web services over here. So be sure that when you're in the market and you're selecting your LMS, ask your vendor what kind of hosting plan are they going to offer you. Are they going to offer you shared hosting, or are they going to offer you dedicated hosting? If they're offering you a shared hosting, Are you going to be charged? Because technically shared hosting is always free, and if they're offering you an Amazon web service provided, or some other service provider, is that amount actually going to your to their vendor, or are they taking a small amount out of it? So in conclusion, if your LMS has less than 1,000 learners, it is simple with no extra integrations and customizations. You can opt for a shared hosting plan with no additional costs. On the other hand, if you're looking to accommodate more than 1,000 learners and want multiple third-party integrations and customizations, a dedicated hosting plan with yearly renewal is the best suited for your organization. Let us take a quick recap till now. All right, these are the three pricing elements that we have covered. That is one-time setup costs. All right, then you got active learners or registered learners plan, plus the third part, which is shared hosting or dedicated hosting plan. So these are the first three parts that form the pricing of your LMS. Let us move on to the last part that forms the pricing of your LMS, and that is additional costs. Now, this is the fourth part that forms the pricing, and you can almost say that these costs can be avoided. However, it really depends on you whether you want to be a part of them or not, whether you want these features or not. So let us go through them in quick detail. All right. Additional costs cover your support fees, maintenance fees, integrations, customization, and user data migration costs. Now, this is where you'll need to pay attention when going with a new vendor, all right, or looking at any other vendor. Let's start with first, which is your support fees. Now you will actually be surprised that many vendors charge for the support that they provide you. Like I told you, the LMS is quite complicated and they're expecting you to keep coming back to them with some kind of a support query, which is why they actually charge you for support. All right. Usually support should always be free in case of any SaaS based organization. But some companies will actually charge you for both phone support and email support. Quickly drop me a yes or no in the chat box if you have an LMS that is being used currently and you're being charged for the support services. Just quickly drop me a yes or no. That'll help me understand how you guys are dealing with your current vendors. Are you all being charged right now? Because technically, SaaS-based companies should not charge for support when it comes to an LMS. So, just like that, a factor that Abara LMS brings into this whole picture is that we do not charge for any support because our LMS is very straightforward. It has an amazing UI and UX that is designed to help your administrators understand how an LMS works without multiple rounds of support. So we do not charge you for support. However, our support is 24 by 5 right now. So all night, all day, 5 days of the week, our support is on and it is not charged. That is something that you need to keep in mind when looking at your new vendor. Are they going to charge you for support? Then we got the next part, which is maintenance fees. Now, this is where it again becomes a little tricky. Some vendors may license you a version of their LMS for a certain amount. Eventually, as time goes by, they may add some new features to the LMS, make some updates, or change a few things about the LMS. So, what they originally gave you has now become outdated. Now, when you ask them to actually upgrade you to the new version of their LMS, they actually ask you for a fee called as a maintenance fee in order to upgrade you from the older version to the new version. Again, as an SaaS based provider, this is something that you should look out for. It should not be this way. At Abara, we do not charge any maintenance fee. So if you have licensed the LMS from us at a certain cost and we come out with a new feature maybe 6 months down the line, it automatically gets rolled out onto your LMS platform. No questions asked. But again, you'll have vendors who are out there right now, they're currently doing it where they might ask you to pay a certain amount in order to upgrade to the next version. So look out for that as well. Now, this is really important and it is integration. So when it comes to integrations, ideally, popular third-party system integrations should always be free. Do not get drawn in by whatever your vendor says. Third-party integrations should always be free. Only in certain case of integrations where probably the LMS is really old, or you want something really out of the box or something that is not there, might they charge you. But if you're looking at popular integrations, it should always be free. So when we talk about the popular integrations that we as a service provider provide you, we are talking about single sign-on, ADFS, one login, Duo, Okta, Ping Identity, Zapier integrations, both hospitality, HRIS integration, webinar integrations, GoToMeeting integrations, WebEx, Zoom, Skype for Business. All of these come free of cost with our LMS, already integrated. So we do not charge you again for them. But again, when you're in the market, make sure your vendor is giving you all of these integrations free of cost. Then you got something called as customizations. Now, along with the previously mentioned point, organizations also charge you for something over the top that you want installed that is not a part of their thing. Obviously, this is something that you cannot avoid if you really want have a very unique training need and you really need a feature that is not existing in the current LMS. You have to go for a customization, which is but naturally charged. All right, and then you got user data management. Now this is something for all the people with existing LMSs out there. All right, if you already have an LMS with you and you're looking to switch to a new LMS, usually your LMS already has a lot of data generated on the back end. This is all the courses that your learners have already completed, all their progress reports, everything. You want to transfer that data from the old LMS to the new LMS. All right. In that case, the vendor charges you a nominal amount to do this because there's a certain amount of data mining and script writing that goes into this process because it is slightly technical and slightly tedious. So your vendor might charge you for user data management, which is just transferring the important old information from your old LMS to your new LMS. Again, you must remember that you don't want all the data from the old LMS to come onto your new LMS because that will just make your new LMS all cluttered. Only the important information has to be removed, which is why a little bit of data mining and data processing goes on the back end, which is why a vendor might charge for it. With that, we have completed all four parts that constitute the pricing of your cost. That is your active learners or registered learners, shared hosting or dedicated hosting, integrations and customization, and finally your additional costs. I do agree that this could have become a little complicated somewhere along, the active user pricing plan and the registered user pricing plan. But rest assured, all can always reach out to us. I'll be sending you all my contact details in the chat section right now. You all should be receiving it. You can always reach out to us. Plus, a copy of this webinar will be sent out to you all. So go back to the slides that talk about active user plan, registered user plan. Have a look at them, understand them. If not, schedule a demo or a callback with one of our people. They can really take you through the LMS, explain to you how active user and registered user planning works. Also, do not forget to take a demo of our LMS. Make sure you all take a demo of our LMS because it is an amazing platform and just try it for yourself. We don't want to tell you how simple it is or how user friendly it is. We want you to initiate a demo, go through it, and try it for yourself for 30 days. Add learners, add courses, just do your administrative thing with it because it's a really amazing platform. We have won multiple awards for it. And get on a call with us. We will help you understand everything. And you all should also have received handouts in your chat boxes right now. Do download them. Visit our website at abaralms.com. We also put out regular blogs and articles that talk about the e-learning industry. We are a content-based organization. We focus a lot on clarifying the doubts and problems that people may have. You can follow us on LinkedIn as well. Our articles go live every week. So it's something that helps you keep a track of e-learning industry as a whole, all the technologies emerging, how to avoid pitfalls, what is important, what is not. So follow us there as well. Again, do initiate the 30-day free trial. It's available on our website. You should be receiving a link of our 30-day free trial right now in your chat box. And log on to that link. Initiate your free trial with us. Try our system thoroughly. I would request you all to use every single feature that is there on that free trial. The good part about this is after initiating a 30-day free trial, you can also initiate an LMS demo with us. Now, if you initiate an LMS demo with us, our salesperson allows you to also try our LMS's mobile application, which is even more powerful. So make sure the link is now available on your chat window to the 30-day free trial. Log on to it after this webinar, activate your free trial, also take a demo, and our sales representative will give you a special access to the mobile application, which is not available for everyone. Now, why is the mobile application important? It's important because it can train your on-field agents. All right. With that, we'll now take questions from everyone. And thank you for attending. We'll see you all in the next webinar, in which we'll try to reconstruct the whole e-learning and learning management system space in more detail. I will now take questions. Sumit, it's over to you. Thank you for joining, and see you all next time.
Thank you, Percy. Thank you for the
Thank you.
webinar.
Yeah.
I'm available on the chat section, guys. Also, thank you for all your questions that you'll have dropped. We'll try and answer them as much as we can right now. If not, we will send you out personal emails with all the answers that you've requested for. As Percy already mentioned, we've also added the handouts under the handout section. Please go through them. Also, we have also shared with you the link for the free trial. There's also an option for schedule a demo if you would like a more personalized option, and we'll be happy to share with you the mobile LMS link as well, which you can also download via iOS as well as the Google Play Store. So thank you each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us for this webinar.
Do drop us any questions, guys, and make sure to activate that 30-day free trial and test the system out for yourself. Also, schedule a demo with our representatives. They will give you special access to the learning management system mobile application, which is an award-winning application. We are a mobile-first organization. So, if you all want to try out our mobile LMS application, do schedule a demo call. See you all next time. Have a great day.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time once again. We would now be ending the webinar. Thank you for joining us today. Look forward to future webinars as well. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.